So, as you can tell, I'm in bed. Or maybe you can't tell because I don't think you've ever seen my bedroom. But I am in bed reading a little bit before I go to bed, obviously. I'm on page 10 right now. I just laid on the couch for a little bit and watched the Golden Girls and read. But what has happened so far? So our main character, whose name I cannot remember for some reason, because I don't think Cass, I'm assuming is what they call her, is in class, and she is talking about the popular kids and like spooky things happening at her school, and she's just sitting there and she feels like a tap 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 on her, and she looks up and there's a boy across the room and he's reading, or like peering over the shoulder of like the popular girls and reading out loud, and you realize, she goes, what does she say? How does she say it? Hold on. She says, he shoots me a devilish look before perching on the edge of her desk talking. Well, she says he could be a popular kid, I think, with his floppy blonde hair, bright blue eyes, and good humor. He shoots me a devilish look before perching on the edge of her desk. He could be, but there's just one problem. Jacob's dead. So apparently her best friend in this story is dead, which I think is really cool. Other than that, I haven't read a whole lot. Not a whole lot has happened, but like I said, it's a middle grade book, but it seems a little bit more intense than a middle grade book, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense, but it just seems written a little more, it has more substance to it, I think, or at least personally. But where they are right now is they are in the theater of their school, because apparently there's a boy who died there. What does she say? My school's the same. The only difference is that when I hear a ghost story, I get to find out if it's real. Most of the time it's not. A creaky sound is just a door with bad hinges. A cold feeling is just a draft. But as I follow the tap, tap, tap down the theater aisle and up onto the stage, I know there's something to this particular story. It's the one about a boy who died in a play. So apparently during the play A Midsummer's Night Dream, at their school a fire broke out and they thought they got everybody out, except for when they opened the trapdoor they found a boy down there. I don't know, it's really cool. So far it's really cool. So we're gonna see what happens and what I think of it. I'm going to read a little bit more tonight and take some notes, and then I'll kind of tell you guys what I think in the morning, and then I'm going to try to finish this tomorrow. I don't have any plans, so hopefully I'm able to do that. I do want to spend some time with my husband though, so I might try to update you guys a little bit later tonight, or I might just update you tomorrow morning. But as you can tell, the lighting in here really sucks because it's really late. It's like, according to my clock, it's like almost 11 o'clock. So I also got 5 hours of sleep, so I'll probably go to bed pretty soon. But yeah, that's gonna be this update. I will update you guys a little bit later when I have more thoughts on what I have read. Hello, it is 7:30. I wanted to update you earlier, but I fell asleep. We went out this afternoon. But when I got home, I did get a little bit of reading done for City of Ghosts, and I'm going to talk to you guys about it. I'm only on page 33, but a little bit has happened that I think is kind of cool. Let's see. So the really cool thing is they go through the void to, I think I was talking about it in my last clip, there is a ghost at the school that happens from an accident during a play. And so her and her best friend go to, her best friend Jacob tried to go and kind of see what has happened. So she's able to go through the veil, but then you find out that she can get stuck, or it's like harder and harder to come back through the veil. And when she's there, her best friend Jacob's a little more real, essentially. Like she can feel him and he can like move stuff and do stuff. So at one point in time she's like having trouble getting back through the veil, and he actually shoves her through it. So that's really cool to know that he becomes more real, I guess, the longer she's in the veil. Not when she's outside of it though. When they're outside of it, it's just the same. And then they also kind of went over how she got into her accident and how she's like alive but not fully alive because she was in an accident. She was like, a car swerved to avoid her and she went through a railing on her bike, like it hit her, and she went through the railing into ice and into like a lake, and I think she died. Like the way they describe it, it was like she died because she died and then was able to come back, I believe. And the cool thing is that Jacob's actually the one who saved her. So I wonder why he saved her, because they keep making, like there's one point in time where Jacob gets really frustrated with her because he won't tell her how he was able to save her, or like certain things, and he gets mad and he's like, I can't tell you everything, like there are rules to being a ghost and he like does this, like, you know, whatever I am. And I thought that was interesting, so I want to know kind of a little bit more about what's going on. I'm hoping to finish a lot of it tonight, but if not, I'm going to finish a lot of it tomorrow. But I just wanted to update you guys on kind of what I am thinking of it right now, and I will, I don't know, check in with you guys tonight or tomorrow morning and let you know what I'm thinking of what I am able to get read this evening. But as of right now, I am on page 33 and actually really liking it. Like I said, it is a middle grade book, but it's written better than a middle grade book, I think. So I'm sorry if you can hear my air conditioning in here, but it's really, really hot. I'm on page 93 now, and there's a couple of things that I wanted to talk about really quickly before I went into work, because it's almost 3 o'clock. Apparently, her dad doesn't believe in ghosts, but her mom does. Her mom believes or wants to believe that something's out there, and they don't know that Cassidy's able to see them, which I think is really cool. The only thing about the book so far that I'm not liking, though, is that when Cassidy's telling her story as she's thinking it, if Jacob, her ghost friend, is in the room, it's as if she's having a conversation with him, so he reacts to things that she's thinking. So it makes the writing style, I don't know, a little bit weird to me. It's still enjoyable, but it is a little bit weird. The only other thing that I really, really like but kind of don't like is the Harry Potter references. There's a lot of them, which I guess if you were like a kid reading this book, you'd be pretty excited about that, because I think everybody really loves Harry Potter. Or maybe it would go over your head if you're a middle schooler reading this, because I feel like maybe you wouldn't be as into Harry Potter as other people are. But I do like it. It just sometimes can be a lot. And then the other couple of things I want to talk about, there's a point in the book where they finally get to Edinburgh, which is where they go for, there's a show that her parents are filming apparently, and they go to like the most haunted city, so they go to Edinburgh first, and there's a mirror in the room of the place that they live in, and when Jacob looks in that mirror, he's like completely lost, like Cassidy can't talk to him, but he sees himself as Cassidy sees him, and then himself as a drowned version of Jacob, and they don't really talk about that. And then the other thing is, they go, her and her mom, when they're exploring, go to this like graveyard essentially, and she's pulled into the veil, and I think that's when we meet our villain of the story. Like, she doesn't intentionally go into the veil just pulls her into it, and she learns I guess who the villain is. It's this woman who wears a red cloak, and she can actually see Cassidy for once, as opposed to Cassidy not being able to like be seen, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. It's really, really cool. I'm liking it a lot. But the only thing is, there's just so many Harry Potter references that while I do love Harry Potter, I don't know. There's a lot of them. I think so far there's been like 3 or 4, and I'm only 90 some pages in. But I get it, because Edinburgh is where J.K. Rowling got the inspiration for Harry Potter, so it kind of makes sense. But that's all I'm going to be able to read right now, so I'm going to update you guys when I get home tonight. Hopefully I'm able to finish it. I'm about halfway through, so I feel like I could probably finish it, but I do also need to read Vicious tonight as well, so I might need to take a little bit of a break. But I will update you guys tonight when I get home and let you know what I am thinking of it. I am really excited to be able to finish it and just see kind of what it's about. It is a middle grade book, but it feels like it's written a little bit more in depth, so that's really nice. But I will check in with you guys a little bit later when I get home. Hello, it is Friday morning, and I am done. I'm done with the book. I finished the book. I actually finished it last night. I didn't get to read. I think this is definitely a book that if you would have sat down in one day, you could have read it, because it is a middle grade book, but also the writing is really big and really like spaced out. So I think, you know, it's almost 300 pages, but I feel like it's closer to 200 pages. Yeah, it's not the hardest book to read, obviously, as well, because it is a middle grade book, but also it was really, really fun. If you guys have been following my updates for it, I actually really like this book. I'm giving it 4.5, but I think I'm gonna give it just a 5. I think I'm just gonna round it up, because I want to rate this on enjoyment, but also kind of on the content. I don't know how to rate middle grade books. If you guys are an avid reader of middle grade, or it's a type of book that you just do read sometimes and you have like a different rating scale for it, because I feel like middle grade books, this is why I have such a hard time reviewing middle grade books, I feel like they need to be reviewed on a different scale, because normal books, like, you know, adult books, teen books, whatever, are obviously very different, and I feel like they have different things that we focus on. So for me, I'm gonna mostly rate this on enjoyment, but there are a few things that I liked and didn't like. Obviously, you guys know that I do not like that when she's telling the story in her head or thinking it, and we as readers are, you know, experiencing it. Every time, like every page if Jacob is around, Jacob reacts to the things that she's telling us within the story. Like, let me see if I can find an example of that. Okay, so for example, it says, I decided to start packing for the beach and drag my suitcase out from under my bed. I sort through my summer clothes while Jacob pretends to rub a smudge of dirt from the hem of his t-shirt. I can't imagine having to wear the same clothes for the rest of my life. And then she goes, existence. Jacob shrugs. I'm glad I was in a Captain America mood that day. That day, what happened that day? I wonder if he'll ever tell me. Jacob doesn't acknowledge the thought. He just rolls onto his stomach and starts reading whatever comic I left open on the bed. He spends a few seconds trying to will the page to turn before I reach over and do it for him. One of these days, he mumbles. So it's like, as she's telling us the story, like, anytime she's ever, like, she's ever thinking or speaking to herself or just like speaking to you as the reader, he is hearing that. Like, those are her thoughts. So for me, sometimes it kind of took me out of the story, because it was like, I'm really getting into the story, and then Jacob butts in and is like, you know, he like responds to what she's telling us. So I don't like that. Another thing, surprisingly, that I did not like is all of the Harry Potter references. It was okay, but there's just so many. It feels kind of forced a little bit, and I really like Harry Potter, but I could take off like a half of a point for that. So I think that's why it was a 4.5 for me, because I don't really like the fact that Jacob butts into pretty much every thought that she's having if he's present in the room. I know it's supposed to kind of spur the story on a little bit, but it does become like a little bit confusing. And the other thing is, I just don't like all of it. There's so many Harry Potter references, like so many. I think if I would have counted, there would have been like 10, which is a little weird. Okay, but getting into other things from yesterday that I really liked. So I liked the Raven in Red, who ended up being the villain of the story. So she is a mother who lost her son one night in a snowstorm. And so she donned a red cape and went out calling him, like calling his name and singing to him and trying to get, like, find him essentially. And she wore the red cape so that he would recognize her and that he would come home. But obviously she died, and what she does is every winter she lures children out to steal their life force, because later in the book, she meets a girl, another girl who's able to do what she is, and that's to cross the veil, but the other girl actually teaches her that she needs to save them, essentially. She needs to be a ghost hunter, and what they do is they blind them with a mirror, they show them what they really look like, and then they reach in and pull strings out of the ghost, and the ghost, like, goes away. It's like their life force, what's keeping them here. And that is what the woman in red, the Raven in Red, does now. She lures people in, like especially children, and takes their strings so that she can grow stronger. And that's kind of what you learn from this myth that they tell in the town, so that's really cool. But the thing about where she is now, I'm just getting kind of ahead of myself there, but in the town that they live in, or in the town they're in Edinburgh, they are, Edinburgh, however you say it, they are surrounded by ghosts, because apparently it's a really renowned haunted location. And she ends up falling into the veil. Like, the veil pulls her in. The veil doesn't part for her when she wants it to part. It actually just kind of sucks her in. And I thought that that was really cool, but also kind of creepy. That's why I said this is like a middle grade book, but it's also a really interesting middle grade book. But the new girl's name is Laura, the other girl who's able to go into the veil like she is, and the one who teaches her that she needs to be essentially setting ghosts free, like letting them go to the other side. Alright. And the reason why I guess she's been falling into the veil and being pulled into the veil, the reason why Cass has been, is because Laura tells her that she was given something because she was saved. So the fact that she was saved from death by Jacob, which they allude to later, that Jacob will become stronger the longer he's outside of the veil, but he used her by saving her, which I think he did in a moment of kindness. By saving her, he connected them. So that's why he's able to pull himself out of the veil and be attached to her. So she's stuck in the veil at one point in time in the book, and he's stuck right along with her. So the only reason he's allowed to leave is because she's allowed to leave. And Laura says that she needs to let Jacob go because Jacob's only going to become stronger and stronger. And in the end of the book, they're like driving away, and Jacob puts his hand up because they do like a ghost high five or whatever. Jacob puts his hand up and she puts her hand there, and which they don't normally do. They just kind of like joke around about doing ghost high fives, but she swears when she puts her hand up that she can feel him, which is part of the thing that Laura says, like, he's only going to become stronger and stronger. So I wonder if later on in these books he's actually going to become evil, which would really suck because I actually really like Jacob. I think that he's super cute. But yeah, that is kind of what happens. Other than the only other, like, the big bad thing that happened is the Raven in Red actually steals her life force, and she dies again. But they're in the veil when it happens, so her body is already over there with her, and she slowly starts to die and get stuck in the veil, and her and Jacob aren't able to leave, but they actually contact Laura because Laura can obviously see ghosts. And it's weird because her and Laura are kind of tied together in a way, which I think is a little bit strange. They don't really tell you why they're tied together or why she's able to contact Laura. They don't tell you why she's able to find Laura. Like, she's like attached to her, so she kind of knows where she is at all times. Like when she's searching for her, when they first get stuck in the veil, she's able to find Laura. Cass is able to find Laura, and they don't really, Victoria doesn't really tell you why. So I'm assuming we'll find that out later on. But for a middle grade book, this book was a lot more in-depth than I thought it was going to be. I think that the next one's going to be really interesting. I thought this one was really interesting. I liked the ending of the book. So at the end, Laura helps Cass and Jacob get Cass's life force back, the string that she had inside of her, and they kill the Raven in Red. Which I don't know, I guess they do. I wonder who the big bad's going to be next time, because it's going to be traveling from city to city. So they get her life force back, and Cass breaks her camera when this happens. So she decides that they are going to, they go and like develop it at a studio or whatever. And in the end they show, or Victoria's talking about Cass is standing there, and the girl at the computer at the camera store is like, I can't sell this lens. Do you want this lens? A lens, I don't know if you guys know, is like what you put on the front of your camera. It's what you use to take pictures with. I don't know if people are familiar with cameras or not, but it's a lens that has a smudge on it, a permanent smudge. So when you take pictures, that smudge always shows up. So the woman's like, you can just have this one. And so she's like, you have one shot left, one camera shot left. I'm gonna take a picture of you. And she's like, okay, but she's like, Cass is like, wait. So she backs up to the window where Jacob is standing, and Jacob turns to look at the camera and smiles. And then the next day when they leave, because they leave the film there that night, and they're leaving Edinburgh that next day. So they leave the film there, and when they're leaving the next day, they go to pick up the film. And in the picture, she can kind of see the outline of Jacob, and she can kind of see his crooked smile and his hair and stuff. And then they allude once again to him becoming stronger and possibly dangerous, and I'm just like, I need to know what happens. Like, this next book is gonna be forever away, but it was super cute. It was really fun and worth the read. It was a really quick read. It was a really enjoyable read as well. I think that's the part that's really important here. I thought that it was really fun and fast, and it's definitely one of those books that I feel like you could spend an afternoon reading and still really, really enjoy, but I really liked it. I think that it's worth your time. Even if you don't read middle grade, I think a lot of people who don't read middle grade will really, really like this book. But yeah, that is what I thought of City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. I am going to wrap this up here. If you guys have any other questions about plot stuff, or if you want to talk about it in the comments if you've read this book, please let me know, because I don't know, I wanted to vlog every single time something happened, but unfortunately I was back to work yesterday, so I couldn't vlog while I was at work. I was also training a new person, so it was like impossible and awkward to try to vlog while I was at work yesterday. But yeah, yeah, let me know if you've read it. But I hope you guys are having a good week. There should be another vlog going up after this one. I think it's probably going to be, I'm probably going to try to separate the vlogs, but hopefully this one goes up on Saturday. So if you guys are seeing this on a Saturday, I achieved my goal of staying up all night on Friday to edit this. But I hope you guys are having a good week. I'm gonna go get ready for work. I love you guys. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!